Welcome to the Dynasty
Not too
Bebop.
much.
We are live here on a Sunday, 1 o'clock. Yeah, man. What's going on with you? See you there dressed in green.
Not too much. Just getting ready to go get a Reuben and cleaning the house since we got no football to watch.
I know, man. I just been rubinating on these free agent moves mainly, so not much of a sauerkraut guy. So I'm gonna stick my most of my meat up in these free agent rankings. So, all right, man.
Don't get
Well,
fired.
yeah. So just kind of want to jump in here on a Sunday, kind of break down. I know a lot of people are doing these free agent shows, kind of breaking down. I'm sure at this point everybody knows where everyone's landed, but we just kind of want to go through and try to find some of the maybe the dirtier buys that might be available here in the free agent period. All these big names that you see in new spots, that you should have taken your bet on them weeks ago. If you haven't, being a buyer now probably isn't the best idea. But we'll talk about those because I think there's some players that might have even landed in some spots and gotten better opportunity, but maybe their value hasn't even increased as much as we think it should. So we'll kind of break down first with the AFC East notable signings. Really, we got Mac Hollins. We got Curtis Samuel there on a 3-year deal, worth $30 million. They've invested in obviously some of the offensive line, bringing in some defense as well. So we got the Miami
Yeah.
Dolphins here, Salvon Ahmed. We got Jonnu Smith, Jordy Fortson. A lot of just defense here. Got the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett, interesting. Antonio Gibson, Kendrick Bourne. We got Hunter Henry. We got Austin Hooper. Patriots making a lot of moves here. And lastly, we got the Jets, Tyrod Taylor. And that's about it, right? Yeah. So just looking at
Yeah.
the AFC East, any names that you think of in the new places, new faces that you think are interesting?
Uh the Curtis Samuel deal, wow, $30 million. Like they must really like him. So I mean, if you can get him cheap, I would consider it. But honestly, Mac Hollins is going to be available on a lot of wires. We saw him do like pretty good. He was a good best ball wide receiver 2 years ago. And with Gabe Davis stepping out, even if Mac Hollins just has like a couple Gabe Davis weeks for your best ball team, like I don't know, that's worth a waiver pickup or just a throw in on a deal. Yeah, I like both of those because we're excited about that Buffalo passing attack, but I don't know. I didn't see too much else that's exciting me.
What do you think that does to like the value of a Khalil Shakir in that offense?
Well, I don't think Khalil Shakir ever had that much value to begin with. Maybe we thought he did, but I don't think he's really done anything to cement himself in there as one of the top three options. And I could still see them drafting a wide receiver too, and it's just gonna get murkier for him. So, I yeah, I think it doesn't help his value at all.
Yeah, I think this makes a very ambiguous wide receiver 2 and 3 in this offense. And probably just right, probably buy the cheapest one to be honest, and kind of take a bet and see what
Yeah, which is
happens.
Mac Hollins.
Yeah, yeah, somewhere between Mac Hollins, Khalil Shakir, and Curtis Samuel. They're all going to be honestly pretty similar. I can say Mac Hollins probably the cheapest. Curtis Samuel has been a target earner in the past, which I think is really solid for him. Uh,
Mhm.
anything notable here for the Dolphins? What about the Patriots? We see Antonio
Patriots,
Gibson
I
coming
like.
in here in this offense. How does that make you feel
Yeah.
about Ramondre?
Um, I've never had a lot of Ramondre, and I've never really been in on him because he was available so cheap for a long time that when his value spiked, I didn't want to pay the spike. So I see Antonio Gibson getting some usage here. He's just going to be like the change of pace thing. He's not going to take over or anything. They're probably going to have a young quarterback on their team as well. And yeah, I don't see it being a super productive situation, but I do like them signing Kendrick Bourne and stuff. Trying to put some wide receivers around a young quarterback. Hunter Henry coming back is a good thing too.
Yeah, I was gonna say Hunter Henry enters back into my garbage tight end chat with this. I like Hunter Henry as a prospect. He looked good. He's still fairly young as far as tight ends go, and tight ends typically are your wide receivers kind of best friend or quarterback's best friend, especially when they're young. So like you said, not a lot of options there for a rookie quarterback as far as throwing the ball. So, give me Hunter Henry. I still think that this probably looks decent for, honestly, Kendrick Bourne and Demario Douglas. I probably throw darts on both of those in best ball leagues as well. The Antonio Gibson Ramondre backfield is probably just something I want to probably just avoid at this time. Neither one of them sound super appealing, and this offense doesn't sound like it's going to be highly efficient in year one anyways. So you're looking at a bigger year two breakout for whoever their running back is going to be, and I don't know if it will be either Gibson or Ramondre come 2025.
Yeah.
All right, we got Tyrod Taylor
not much
slinging in here with the Jets.
Yeah.
So wow, man,
Tyrod, my hand, Taylor.
My hand. Gotta love Tyrod, dude.
I'm worried about the Jets, man.
I can say I do think that you're looking at some of these dart throw quarterbacks. Tyrod is one of those that's always just seemed to put up numbers whenever he gets the opportunity. And Rodgers, who knows what could happen with him? I think they're looking.
Hey, he might be running for vice president.
Right. They just don't want, and they don't want to put Zach in there either. So I think that I would be interested in throwing some darts on some 4th round picks, maybe on Tyrod. We talked earlier in our last mock draft about how those 4th round picks really aren't much anyways. So if you have some premonitions or feelings on some of these quarterbacks, I think why not take one on Taylor?
I see the Jets as a very volatile situation right now. There's a lot of potential there, but I can definitely see a lot of paths to Aaron Rodgers missing time, and that $18 million, well, up to $18 million for 2 years. Like they signed him to be the backup. They didn't pay him that for him to be the 3rd string quarterback. So I think it's a good buy low because honestly, it's just nobody's attached to Tyrod Taylor. Anybody will pretty much take anything they can get for him. So it's an easy buy.
Yep, yeah, and he's a throw-in on most deals. Hey, just throw me your Tyrod Taylor and we'll call it even. And they're like, okay, sure, here, have Tyrod. All right, yeah, let's look at the home division here. We got the Ravens getting bigger and nastier with Derrick Henry. Nelson Aguilar signing an extension there, bringing in another backup quarterback and Josh Johnson. The Bengals here with Zach Moss. We got T. Higgins getting the franchise tag. I do think it's interesting with maybe Mike Gesicki here with a 1-year deal. A couple blocking tight ends here as well. Hometown Browns with Mr. Crab Legs. We got Jerry Jeudy. We got some Adam Troutman action, bolstering up that defense. Do like a few of those defensive additions non-fantasy related. And then we got the Steelers going all in on their super flex roster. They got two QBs locked in, so they can score, both spots here with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. And yeah, that's it's gonna be an interesting division here, man. So, what do you think about some of these moves here in the AFC?
I don't like Derrick Henry coming to our part of the town here. I I don't want to play him twice a year if he's healthy. I think it's a solid signing for Baltimore. I think they still probably draft a guy. Just because that room just seems like a revolving door constantly. Their running back room. I don't know, the T. Higgins franchise. Oh, do you want to stay on Baltimore?
I was gonna say, yeah. How does that make you feel about
whole
maybe buying a Justice Hill or a Keaton Mitchell? Who showed some flashes last year. Obviously, tore up his knee towards the end of the season, but I'm gonna guess with modern medicine will be back at some point in the year.
Yeah, well, I think like Justice Hill is available on the wire in some leagues. I know personally I dropped him in one league towards the end of the year because I've just got frustrated with him. But yeah, I think he's a good like throw-in piece, but I don't know. I don't really want to buy anybody in that room. If I can get Derrick Henry cheap, I'll do it, but I'm not going to do it till the season starts. Probably. I'm not in a hurry to make that deal right now.
Yeah, let some newer, hotter, sexier names come into the fold right now. Like Derrick Henry kind of got pushed up your mind rankings just because this was probably the landing spot everybody thought and hoped for the most was Derrick Henry in Baltimore running the option with Lamar Jackson. So yeah, I think that this makes his value a little higher than maybe I want to pay for it right now, and it should coast back down to a median here at some point throughout the offseason. So yeah, I agree with that. What about a Zach Moss signing here with the Cincinnati Bengals? We also have Chase Brown in that backfield. I think they signed Travion Williams. They re-signed him. They never used him that much, but really it's gonna be Zach Moss and Chase Brown.
Yeah, I mean it's a good Zach Moss sell window. If anything, I'm not going out and trying to acquire either of those guys right now. I'll just wait till the situation figures it out and pay like a little bit more, maybe like 33% more for the guy once he's like clarified that he's the guy. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely, it's a sell window for me.
Yeah, I mean Zach Moss is the way we like to build our teams a lot. I think he's a really good RB2 on our rosters. So I don't mind trying to go out and poking around that owner and seeing where they left off with their team last year, because there's a good chance Zach Moss is on a team that's won a championship and maybe already looking to kind of tear down for another shot at it, or wanting to get a little youth because they burned all their rookie picks. So with a weak running back class, I could go out and pay, the 301 on a Zach Moss and feel like I'm getting production in that spot. It all kind of depends upon my roster. Obviously I'm not gonna build around Zach Moss, but I do think that
Right.
A solid,
no, it's dirty.
An entire solid year of production for him.
All I'm saying is if I had Zach Moss, it's good that we've got both sides of the coin here, because if I had Zach Moss and somebody sends me the 301, I am probably breaking my phone screen. I'm going to smash accept so hard. Yeah. But yeah, like I could see, if you're in the right situation, I could see spending that range of pick on him. But, you've got to have a very specific team, and you've got to be ready. You can't just be somewhere in the middle and doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he performed like decently. Obviously he performed well with Indy. He was getting a lot of RB1 production when Jonathan Taylor wasn't around. And even when Jonathan Taylor kind of came back a little slow there, you were still getting a few RB1, high end RB2 production weeks from him. So I think that he's got the ability. He's obviously in a great offense that's going to be moving the ball. He's going to get red zone touchdown opportunities because Joe Burrow's not going to steal them from him either. So, man, I think it's someone we're taking a bet on. Sorry, my dog alarm's going off, so must be 1:15. All right, I turned it off. All right. Here with the Cleveland Browns, we got Jerry Jeudy getting traded from the Broncos for a 5th and 6th round pick. What do you think about that deal?
Honestly, I'm pretty stoked about it as a Browns fan. I don't need Jerry Jeudy to be great. I don't need him to become a number 1 receiver. We have Amari Cooper. You know, what I need him to do is be like 75 to 80% of what Will Fuller was. And I think he can do that. So, yeah, that I think it's a good sign. I don't want him for fantasy, really. I don't think he's going to be consistent. I think he's going to have weeks where he blows up. So, yeah, maybe more of a best ball wide receiver than a lineup where I'm making start-sit decisions. But, yeah, sure. I like it for my Browns fandom, but not for fantasy.
Yeah, I think that the wide receiver 2 and honestly, the Stefanski offense, almost in general, has just never really been a high value piece in the offense. So I think, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, the run game is going to still be a lot of the old Cleveland Browns in that way. I don't think we're going to see a lot of 3 wide sets and really spreading the ball around. All right, last one
also,
here.
Also, I did want to say, Jameis, one thing that Deshaun Watson has proved to us is that he's not going to be out on the field for 17 games. So, Jameis, I'm not spending a lot on him, but he's rosterable for sure. And if you can get him cheap, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Another solid backup that has proven to put up some high end QB2, low end 1 numbers when they get the opportunity. So I'm fine taking the shot on that as well. And then lastly, we got
here. I was just going to say, this has been the biggest question of free agency right here that we're stepping into right now.
Yeah. What a weird time to be alive. So the Steelers go out, they sign Russell Wilson. They're paying him $1 million. They trade off Mason Rudolph. They let Mason Rudolph walk. And then they trade off Kenny Pickett. And then they bring in Justin Fields. So they basically swap Fields and Pickett on their roster. And from what I hear from all accounts, Russell Wilson is the projected starter for the 2024 season. So, yeah, what are you doing with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? You buying one? You selling one? Or are you staying away from both of them?
So, I don't think that the Justin Fields owner, they see him go to the Steelers and they're like, the Steelers are better than Chicago. So, I can't knock his value way down. So, I think you got to wait on Fields, and I think we need to see Russell Wilson start before you can buy Fields. I think if you're trying to sell your Fields, this was great for you because it insulated his value a little bit. The Pittsburgh Steelers are typically a pretty winning franchise, and they've been able to use Duck Hodges to, make wins on the field. What Tomlin's going to be able to do with Justin Fields eventually does scare me. So it did insulate his value for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, insulated value of a 207 at this point in a rookie draft. Maybe you could get for Justin Fields if you were to trade him straight off your roster. I I mean, I don't know. Yes, he's going to hold that same value probably until he gets maybe the opportunity to start, because people do believe that the Steelers are a well-run offense. Probably has the opportunity to fix Fields, but man, I just think it's a weird, stinky situation. I don't know who wanted who in that organization. Did the GM want Russ? Did Tomlin want Russ? Did the GM want Fields? Did they both want both of them? Yeah, who knows, man. It just feels odd. But I know I hate to say I feel like the Steelers are probably going to figure it out, and one of them is going to be probably a long-term 3-year starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, maybe take your shot on both of them. I do have a trade that I'll pull up here at the end of this stream that I made last night that I'm kind of curious to get a little bit of feedback on. But let's go ahead and keep going. We got the hot boys down here in the AFC South. We got the Houston Texans picking up Joe Mixon after getting dropped, and then changed their mind and then traded to the Texans. Re-signing Noah Brown, re-signing Dalton Schultz to a pretty big 3-year, $36 million, $23 million fully guaranteed for a tight end. Pretty solid, good for him. They're going out there. They made a ton of defensive moves, spending a lot of money in free agency. Benefits of rookie quarterback contracts. We got the Colts out here with Joe Flacco, Trey Sermon, and Michael Pittman signing a 3-year, $70 million, max value $71.5, $46 million guaranteed. Which is basically like, from what I heard, was just basically the equivalent of 3 consecutive franchise tags. Is basically what he ended up taking a contract of. So, basically they just kind of got their 3 franchise tags out of the way, and they got their guy locked in. So I think everybody kind of wins, especially when you start looking at some of these other wide receivers contracts that did go down. I think they got a pretty good deal on their guy to keep them in-house. We got Jacksonville Jaguars down here with Mac Jones traded from the Patriots. Gabe Davis signing a 3-year, $39 million, max value $50 million with bonuses. Devin Duvernay on a 1-year deal there as well. The Houston Texans signing Mason Rudolph off the waiver. Tony Pollard signing a 3-year, $24 million contract. Calvin Ridley signing a 4-year, $92 million contract. And Nick Westbrook-Akine signing a 1-year deal worth some sort of money that is undisclosed, because it's probably only $1 million. He's a poor guy.
Right.
He's gonna be struggling to live. All right, buddy. What do you think about the sexy AFC South here?
Joe Mixon's cool. If you can get him cheap, he's like a 1-year type thing. They're definitely. I see them drafting Jonathan Brooks. It's just like all coming together where they kind of filled their need immediately, and they can just take that best running back on the board, even though he needs a little bit more time to be ready than the other guys. Yeah, I love the Dalton Schultz signing. I've had a lot of him that I got for free or very cheap, and so it's good to see those go up. I'm definitely interested in testing the market and seeing what he's worth, because that's a secure deal with like a top quarterback,
right? I know
it vaults him up to the top 10 tight ends for sure.
I know that
he's in the conversation.
You're pretty notably down on the Nico Collins Tank Dell wide receiver duo. They didn't bring in any wide receivers, but I know you feel pretty strongly about them taking someone else in the draft. So I wondered how that made you feel about Dalton Schultz as well. If they're using Tank Dell, Nico Collins, a rookie or two, and Dalton Schultz, is that going to impact his season-long value?
It could. I think that Dalton Schultz will be the least impacted by like any wide receiver additions where like the wide receiver room might get a little bit more clogged, but like they can't have the entire wide receiver room on the field every time, but they're going to have a tight end on the field every time.
Sure,
So,
sure. Yeah, and I do think Dalton Schultz, what he does lack in athleticism, he does make up for, and just being a fairly well-rounded tight end that just feels pretty good to have on your roster. Yeah, I think he's probably one I'm not trying to purchase, just because I do think that his value is probably is higher than what I want to pay for any tight end. I'm gonna stay more in the value bargain bucket with the Mike Gesicki and the Hunter Henrys or geez, we'll talk about maybe some Greg Dulcich at some point. I'm kind of growing back on the Dulcich wagon here with as it's still a young prospect. But anyways, we got the Colts here. Bringing in Joe Flacco as some good insurance and a quarterback mentored Anthony Richardson. They played the exact same thing. Was it they played the exact same play style? I mean, you watch Joe Flacco run around the field at 250 and plowing people over, so he can really help them with that. Anyways, Trey Sermon is probably maybe an interesting this whole backfield, because they're probably likely not going to spend any sort of significant draft capital on a backup running back. They do have was it Tyler Goodson?
Evan Hall,
Tyler Goodson, who I thought Goodson looked good at the end of last year. He had a couple runs where I thought he looked solid, and I know that from on Player Profiler, he looks good on his profile page. He's got good burst, good athleticism, good size. He could be a similar clone to Jonathan Taylor if they need him to get in there and play some snaps. So I think that's another backfield I'm going to take some shots on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like Evan Hall too as a cheap option because so many people either forgot about him or dropped him, or maybe he was sitting on somebody's IR all year and now they filled up their team and they've got to get rid of some guys. So he could probably be acquired very cheap. And I'd like that, just taking the cheap options in that room, because they're a team that's gonna run more than a lot of other teams. So
yeah, 100%. And with more runs becomes more risk of injury too, and having to use multiple backs. So I like that idea, and I think that are probably the best time to make some of these deals with some of these bottom end roster guys that we have a little bit of faith in to fill out our RB roster is right after the draft, when people are filled up their new rookies onto their board. They're trying to empty out their taxi squad from last year. Evan Hall didn't do anything for me. I'll take $5, or whatever. Try to throw some deals out like that.
Yeah, there's a mad dash between the end of the rookie draft and when the wire opens in your league. If there, a lot of the leagues have a buffer. And so guys are going to be dumping because they see a guy or two on the wire that they want to go get, but they have too many guys on their team. They're opening their thing and it's already telling them you must drop 2 guys to like move people around or whatever. So they've got to drop 3 to go get the guy off the wire they want. So that's the time that I'm buying those.
Right. Toss-ins and deals too. When you're like, hey, I'm sending you this or whatever. Who are you looking at dropping? Could I grab Evan Hall from you? Those kinds of deals.
See, I won't even say like, who are you looking at dropping? I'll just maybe go to the bottom and who I think they're going to drop. And then maybe even look a couple guys up from that, because if they still have the guy on their roster, they're probably somewhat attached to him. And like, you never know. They might like that back end guy a little bit more than somebody up a little bit. Like, I don't know.
Yep.
It's just
That's why sometimes I like to give. That's why I like sometimes to give teams those options. I've been able to find some good deals that way by just straight up asking like who are your next guys to get cut, especially when I'm in season and the teams are clearly trying to contend. I'm clearly trying to shed points. It's easy to sometimes just, hey, I'll just throw them in the deal. Sometimes I feel a little bit better about getting some extra players, and I might be able to move that player again for a fourth round pick at some point, and I feel like I'm profiting. So, the last team we got here in the AFC Sexy South is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, I would say really nothing. I mean, we got Gabe Davis. Sorry, no, I guess not nothing. We got Gabe Davis coming in. We got Calvin Ridley going out. What do you think about Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram? Does that change any value for them?
I'm just like caring about these guys a little bit less every year as like Jacksonville kind of disappoints our expectations. People keep wanting to like launch them up there as like a team that's about to become a premier offense. And I'm just not that excited about it anymore. I don't think Gabe Davis affects their values. I think Christian Kirk's still pretty solid. As a wide receiver, but yeah, I don't want much else. Evan Ingram, I'll take some, but like, yeah, I really don't want anybody outside of Kirk or Ingram.
Yeah. How are you feeling about the Trevor Lawrence in this offense? I mean, I know he's been a little disappointing over the past few seasons. Is that someone that you're interested in getting off of at this point?
I don't have any Trevor Lawrence, so I'm not trying to acquire him anywhere or anything yet. I want to like I think he could be a buy, but like we need to see the value dip a little bit more before that would happen. But
Yeah,
I'm not doing it now.
we've seen a lot of Hall of Fame quarterbacks struggle in their first few seasons in the NFL. It's not an uncommon practice. I feel like especially for these quarterbacks that are more of a pure passer, which I think Trevor Lawrence is that kind of quarterback. He is a very cerebral guy. I'm more in on Trevor than I feel like the community is at this point. A lot of people are down on him, and I mean the talent's been there. He's got the size, he's got the pedigree, he's got the hair. He plays in Jacksonville, so I'm still in on Trevor Lawrence. I see him going in the early mid second round of startups, and I think that's some really good value for us. 24-year-old wide or a quarterback. So digging it.
Yeah.
All right.
Tony Pollard in Tennessee, I don't care. That's all I have to say about Tennessee is Tony Pollard, I don't care. Oh, Calvin Ridley just means to me that they're just going to be airing it out a lot. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting offense, and I only want these guys in best ball.
All right, so let's say you have a lot of bad weeks. Let's say you have Will Levis on your roster right now as your QB3. What are you willing to take as an offer for your Will Levis that you feel good with?
If I could turn Will Levis into Michael Penix plus a little like a third or fourth rounder or something, just because we know that we've seen Will Levis have some good games and stuff. Like, I think it kind of gives you a little bit of extra value there. Like, yeah, I'm looking for like Nix or Penix probably, and a little bit of candy to go along with it.
Yeah,
that's what I would need.
Have you seen where Penix's ADP has been going recently?
It's like the mid two, the mid second.
Dude, I'm seeing him up at the 111. Yep.
For real?
Yep. 110, 111. I was hard to see him moving up the boards again. With Vegas, really leaning into the 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. I feel like that's pushed Penix up the board. I think his performance and people being reminded of his accuracy and almost the left-handed Stroud comparisons and whatnot. That I think that you're gonna have a harder time getting him in the second round. I think he's gonna get almost that similar Will Levis spot there at the 110, 111. So it's gonna be interesting once it shakes out. But I'm definitely seeing a rise. He's I believe the 11th player on Keep Trade Cut right now. Let me do a quick check update. Yes, he is the 11th spot, QB 26 on Keep Trade Cut overall.
Ooh, all right, that's a big jump. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, they got JP McCarthy.
Okay, you're not going to be turning. All right, you're not going to be turning Levis into Penix Plus if that's the price. But if Bo Nix is a little lower, I guess that's where I'm going to go and just say if I can get like Bo Nix and a third or fourth rounder or something, just another dart throw.
So that's something that you're probably wanting to wait until you're on the clock to make that kind of deal?
Probably, yeah. You want to at least wait till after the draft and see where Bo Nix would land. This is assuming that he's in a spot where it looks like he's going to get a shot at being a starter at some point. Like, we don't want to see him land, behind a solid starter somewhere.
Yeah, I think
then that would really kill his value. But
yeah, because I think we are kind of in this like draft hubris season right now, where we kind of feel we know where all the ADPs are in these rookie drafts, but the reality is the picks, especially like 8 through the rest of the draft, is going to be completely different than what it is currently. So for us to say that we're going to trade to a pick for a certain player right now it means you're probably going to get burned, to be honest, on the player that you wanted. You're either going to not get them or you're going to reach on them. So, if you're targeting specific players, it's kind of best to, I think, hold off a little bit. But if you're happy with a range of players, I think that's more when you want to make these bets. I'm okay walking away with A.D. Mitchell for my Will Levis. If so-and-so doesn't get the spot. You need to start thinking a little bit more like that with your QB3 and feeling like I can do this, but if Levis is on the board, I feel even maybe better. Or, sorry, Penix is on the board, I feel even better. Yeah, that's my thought on that.
Cool.
AFC West, we got the Denver Broncos, shedding off
doing
all kinds
nothing.
of stuff,
all right.
and rebuilding the Sean Payton offense from the bottom up. We got Kansas City Chiefs with a nice little signing here. Marquise Brown, 1-year deal worth up to $11 million. Like, not a big deal for Hollywood. I'd say a big 1-year prove-it signing, which Kansas City has done with several wide receivers. I feel like over the past few years with Juju and MVS and Kadarius Toney, who knows where he is now. There's a lot of these going on. So, re-signing Chris Jones, big 5-year, $158 million, big deal for Chris Jones. That's awesome. Vegas down here, we got Gardner Minshew on a 2-year, $25 million deal, 15 fully guaranteed. Does that feel like starter money to you?
Feels like low-end starter money to me.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like backup money.
I don't know. Honestly, like, I thought Aiden O'Connell might have been enough for them to, like, Davis Mills it for a year. And, like, but I know it's not a very good quarterback class next year. So, I don't know. Between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, their combined power is probably, like, a starting quarterback. Yeah, I don't know if I see them taking a young guy early in the first round here.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely an interesting buffer quarterback. You say it feels like a lot, especially with all the quarterbacks that were on the move and what they could have paid a lot of these quarterbacks. I mean, geez, we're talking about a 6th round pick for Justin Fields,
Justin
man.
Fields.
Right. Brought him in for a similar 1 year tryout. So yeah, very interesting. Chargers, re-signing Easton Stick. They let Austin Eckler go, brought in Gus Edwards, signed
Will
Hayden Hurst.
Disley.
Actually, I didn't see the Hayden Hurst to the Chargers deal. I'm always Hurst has always been on my bum list that I'd like to bring on board. So
Yeah, Disley's been one of my best ball bum guys that I like rotates on and off my roster occasionally.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think we kind of talked through these as we were kind of going with these ones a little bit more. What about the AFC West? What do you think they're going to do with this quarterback situation? They still have Stidham on their roster, and right now sitting outside of possibly the range. They might need to move up, and Minnesota right behind them.
I don't think the Denver Broncos have very many draft picks this year, do they? Uh
They do. I thought they had their 1st round pick this year. Yeah,
well, yeah, no, they have their first, but I think that they only have like 5 or 6 picks. Like that, I don't think they have like a deep well of picks. So yeah, I don't know. They don't have a lot of like capital to move up with unless they're trading away their future, which yeah, I don't know. They're just kind of screwed. They're probably going to try to do something. They probably should just be bad for a year and just
yeah. I think that this is
yeah.
a team that the Arizona Cardinals. I know everybody wants Marv to land with the Cardinals, but if they could trade back and acquire a future 1st round pick from Denver, yeah, I think that's just keep acquiring that capital. There's going to be another wide receiver. I think Denver's at like 12 right now. Um,
Yeah, they're still going to get one of the top 3 there most likely.
yeah, yeah. I
Maybe.
think yeah, I think there's yeah, or they've got 2 picks. They would have 3 picks, I believe, in the 1st round. No, I think there's still the 2 picks in the 1st round this year because they have theirs and they have the Texans 1st round pick.
Yeah.
What about the Hollywood and Rashee Rice dynamic? Are we looking at cohabitating wide receivers? Are we looking at a value hit or spike from one, or both can get it done?
I think that any touches that Marquise Brown could be taking away from this offense. I mean, we every year we think Kelsey's gonna like go down. I want to think that it's gonna be more of a Marquise Brown and Rashee Rice offense next year than it is gonna be the Kelsey offense that we've seen before. But you never know. He might just never die. He might just keep being the number one. Marquise Brown, like we've definitely seen him have like good stretches, and he's been an exciting guy, but he's also just so volatile. I really don't know. I don't want to spend a lot on him, but I'm excited to have him where I do.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think Marquise Brown is one of those tough ones for purchasing. I don't know what, as far as just a straight up pick value, he's evidently worth. Uh, I feel like the owner is gonna want a 110, 111, 112, but I don't know how many people are willing to pay 1st round pick for Hollywood at this point in his career.
Just saw a deal go down. That was that little sounder we had. It's funny that we're talking about Travis Kelce. It's Travis Kelce, Justin Fields for Devonta Smith.
Kelsey and Fields for Smitty. Ugh.
Right. You're taking like a secure wide receiver and turning him into two volatile assets. It's
Yeah.
interesting, but it could be a huge upside for the Kelsey and Fields side.
Okay, yeah, that was in the Modern Dynasty League. Oh, got another trade that went down in another league. Do you want to do some trade action here? I got one in a best ball league that I'm in. We got Kirk Cousins and
Sure.
Nick
Are
Chubb.
we all the way through the Are we all the way through the AFC?
Yes, that was the full AFC.
Sweet. Yeah, let's stop there and we can just talk trades for a little bit, or else we're gonna make a 2-hour video. So
Yeah, we're at the
we'll do
45
the
minute mark
AFC
here.
later.
So the trade that just went down is in a best ball league. We have Kirk Cousins and Nick Chubb being acquired for Marvin Mims and a 2025 first round pick.
Ooh, wow. The Nick Chubb hate is real. People have just kind of forgotten him and written him off. We previously were talking about Nick Chubb getting released, but I think if that was going to happen, it would have already happened, right?
I don't
Or
know.
do
I
you
don't
think
remember how his wordage was and what all that. Yeah, but yeah, you would think that they'd already be cutting to save money. But I think with $30 million increase in the
cap?
salary cap for the teams, that kind of saved them a little bit. But yeah, it's
Mhm.
interesting. I think you're kind of looking at the 2025 first for Kirk Cousins is kind of a fairly even swap. And then you're looking at Nick Chubb for Marvin Mims.
It could be great. Like if Marvin Mims turns into the guy that we want him to be coming into last year. We saw a couple good games where he looked like you wanted him in your lineup, and then he really just fell off. So I don't know anything about the guy at this point.
Right.
Whatever preconceived notions I had have been shattered. And I honestly, in that 1-for-1, I'm taking Chubb. But I am more on the side of the 25 first than Kirk Cousins. So
All right. I got
I'm kind of
another
split.
question for you. Just because I had all my stuff on Do Not Disturb whenever I'm in here, so um, I'm. It's been a very active morning. I got another trade that went down. I have one team acquiring the 305 for Darnell Mooney and $15 worth of fab. Darnell Mooney or the 305.
Give me that Mooney, dude. Give me that 15. I just picked up a poop dollar this week when I got traded uh, Robinson and a fab dollar for nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me that 15 fab bucks. I love that. And you know, I don't want to spoil the next episode we do where we're going over the AFC, but like Mooney's gonna be he's going to be a guy in Atlanta. Like he's going to draw some targets there. So I think that's sneaky. And yeah, I like the fab is just the icing on it for me. Cause I probably would do just, I would take Mooney for my 305 and getting that extra bucks on top is sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna pull up the trade here that I did. And let me get this moved over a little bit. Whoop. Sorry, I didn't mean to block your face. All right. So last night, I have been trying to trade Russell Wilson for 2 years in this league. Finally, was able to get a deal done. Traded Russell Wilson in my 311 for a 207. How do you feel about that?
It's good. I think that 207 winds up turning into a usable player. Somebody that you can pretty much immediately put into your lineups and feel good about for a couple of years. And I don't see that with either Russell Wilson or the 311. So
Yeah, the
I'm okay with it.
311's right in that line of right when I stopped wanting them. Honestly, we argued over the 311 for quite a while on whether it was like the 405 or the 311 or the 402 and the 311. And finally, I was just done bickering and just pulled the trigger on it. Sometimes deals like this, this feels like I'm trading a starting quarterback for a dart throw in the second round, and I'm adding a third round pick to do it. So like it does kind of feel like ugh. But when you're talking about getting a guy off your roster, sometimes you have to do it. Just like when Buzzard added $1 worth of fab to get Allen Robinson off of his roster to trade to you. Sometimes you just tired of looking at a guy on your team and you just don't want to drop him. So, um, yeah. So that's my Russ deal. It's not super sexy, but sometimes you just gotta
Hey, I
acquire
think
that
this is
capital.
all about just knowing those ranges of picks. And like, I think we're feeling really comfortable about that, like out to the 207, 208, because we've got so many wide receivers, 5, maybe 6 quarterbacks ahead of it. At least a tight end. So you're looking at one of the top 3 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not getting that, then that means that those were taken earlier, and something that should have been taken earlier has fallen down the board to you. So, I think it's a good range to land in.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, I'm gonna play our sleepy time music, and I think it's just time for the Dynasty Bebop boys to go ahead and wrap it up here on a Sunday afternoon, and maybe get a little cozy next to the fireplace and take a cat nap with the cats and dogs and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Any parting words, my buddy?
No, I'm just about to conk out now.
All right. Bye.